On April 1st, 2024, 7 aid workers of the World Central Kitchen were tragically killed in an IDF strike in Gaza. Due to the seriousness of the incident, an independent investigation was immediately opened to understand what went wrong and to determine accountability and to prevent incidents like this from happening again. The investigation was conducted as part of the fact-finding and assessment mechanism, a professional and independent body that is outside the chain of command. The head of the investigation, Reservist Major General Yoav Areven, shared his findings with the World Central Kitchen founder, Chef Jose Andres, and with WCK Erin Gore, and to the ambassadors of the countries whose citizens were killed in this strike, and to the international press in a frank and detailed briefing. Firstly, the investigation found that the WCK coordinated everything correctly with the IDF in advance. The findings of the investigation show that there were in fact a number of armed gunmen who boarded and left some of the vehicles that were identified during the course of the event. After some of the vehicles split from the others, the forces that were tracking the vehicles that went south did so thinking that these were Hamas vehicles, that Hamas gunmen had entered. This operational misidentification and misclassification was the result of internal failures that led to a critical information regarding the humanitarian operation to not go properly down to the chain of command. The soldiers conducted the strike without any awareness that these were in fact WCK vehicles. At the time, they were certain that they were targeting Hamas. The WCK vehicles were marked with the logo of the WCK organization on the roof. However, the cameras tracking the vehicles from above were unable to identify the logos, which were not visible at night. This tragic mistake could and should have been prevented. The strike on the aid vehicles is a grave mistake, stemming from serious operational failures, mistaken classification and identification, errors in decision-making, and strikes that were conducted in violation of standard operating procedures. After the IDF Chief of the General Staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, accepted the findings, he ordered several disciplinary actions to be taken immediately. The Brigade Fire Support Commander, an officer with the rank of Major, will be dismissed from his position. The Brigade Chief of Staff, an officer with the rank of a Colonel, will be dismissed from his position. The Brigade Commander and the Division Commander will be formally reprimanded. Additionally, the IDF Chief of the General Staff decided to formally reprimand the Commander of the Southern Command for his overall responsibility for the incident. The IDF takes this incident with the utmost seriousness. We are still in the process of analyzing and implementing lessons learned from this event, but the IDF will be implementing significant measures effective immediately. This is part of our constant effort to avoid incidents like this, which unfortunately are possible when fighting an enemy that deliberately disguises itself as civilians and deliberately embeds its military activities among its own people. This is a tragedy. It was a terrible chain of errors, and it should never have happened. The IDF takes full responsibility for this regrettable loss of life.
The Israeli military on Friday released findings from its inquiry into the killing of 7 aid workers in an airstrike in Gaza. It found serious errors and breaches of procedure and said 2 officers will be dismissed and a senior commander formally reprimanded. The inquiry added that Israeli forces mistakenly believed they were attacking Hamas gunmen when drone strikes hit the 3 vehicles of the World Central Kitchen aid group. The Israel military had earlier apologized for what it called the unintentional deaths. World Central Kitchen released a statement shortly after Israel published its findings, demanding an independent commission to investigate. It added that the Israeli military could not credibly investigate its own failure. The killing of the aid workers has angered even some of Israel's closest allies, including the U.S. administration, leaving it increasingly isolated. Public opinion among close allies like Britain, Germany, and Australia has also swung against the Israeli campaign in Gaza. Leaders have become more critical too. U.S. President Joe Biden, under growing pressure from his own supporters to end the fighting, has said he was outraged by the convoy attack.
We received Israel's report on the terrible killing of the World Central Kitchen team in Gaza a few days ago. We're reviewing it very carefully. We'll be discussing its conclusions with Israeli officials and with humanitarian organizations in the days to come. It's very important that Israel is taking full responsibility for this incident. It's also important that it appears to be taking steps to hold those responsible accountable. Even more important is making sure that steps are taken going forward to ensure that something like this can never happen again. Prime Minister Netanyahu indicated to President Biden that Israel would be making further changes to its procedures to make sure that those who are providing assistance to people who so desperately need it in Gaza are protected. So we're going to be looking very carefully at what those steps are, how it achieves better deconfliction, better coordination, so that aid workers are protected. At the same time, as Israel pursues any military operations against Hamas, it has to prioritize the protection of civilians. It has to make that job number one. Too many people have been caught in this crossfire of Hamas's making. Children, women, men losing their lives. Their safety has to be a priority, and military operations need to be designed around their protection, not the other way around. So we'll be looking at all of this in the days to come, and we'll be, as I said, assessing fully the report on the World Central Kitchen incident, and looking to see not just what steps are being taken, but the results that follow from them. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone.